students are gone, but you are still here. And we know how you feel because you are done. But you have so much work to do to get ready for tomorrow. Good afternoon, podcast listeners everywhere. Welcome to After the Bell, a Stunt Brothers production. A podcast that gets inside the life of a teacher and provides a wellness guide for being prepared to take on this most challenging of professions. I'm Martin Stuvel.
And I'm Roy Hunt. And we share your pain, having taught a combined 70 years. The guarantee of this podcast is to make you laugh, make you think, and give you at least one little nugget that you can use in the classroom. So get out your marking, organize your supplies, or just pour yourself a coffee.
I want something stronger.
And listen, engage, and interact with After the Bell, a podcast for you, the hard-working, dedicated teacher who wants free lesson plans, free advice, and a free meal.
Okay, Roy, but I'm not paying for anything more than McDonald's. Hey, how you doing, Mr. Hunt?
I am doing well, Mr. Stubel, and you?
I'm good. How was your Christmas?
Christmas was good.
Yeah.
I had a restful time and a great time with family.
At the end of the day, to me, it is about the family. That's what I enjoy the most. Some of the other stuff that happens over Christmas, the shopping and the noise and all those things, sometimes that can get exhausting. It's almost too much going on sometimes, but to me, my heart is warm when I'm with my family and we're getting together. So
my heart is warm and my belly is full.
My belly is full. Isn't that like a Dickens? Yes. There must be some Dickens book where that, right?
Yes.
My heart is warm and my belly is full. I can hear that line totally.
There you go.
And I always have to watch Dickens' Christmas Carol. That is certainly a big part of my existence. My dad always had us watch it, and that was just Ebenezer, played by Alistair Sim. Okay. Right? Mm-hmm. It was done in 1953. He was born to play that role. So that is my favorite Christmas movie.
There you go.
Do you have a favorite Christmas movie?
Well, we have a lot of family favorites.
Yes.
And I know we like to watch Elf.
That's wonderful.
That classic, right?
Yeah.
And there are some animated features that Christmas features that we like. My daughter and I, we like to just coming up to the beginning of December, start watching at least one a week at Christmas. And so we go through the whole repertoire.
Do you watch Rudolph Rudolph? I love that one.
Yes,
right?
the classic one.
Yeah.
And then we have watched Die Hard.
Okay.
She had
people
never
talk
watched
about that.
Die Hard as a Christmas.
So now has it become
I think so.
In the Hunt family?
In the Hunt family.
Well, interesting.
I mean, I think, my family says, okay, Dad likes to watch this. So classic.
Wow.
That's Dad's classic Christmas Die Hard one.
Christmas Vacation has become a one for my wife and I. It always was her favorite, and I really got into watching that. Some classic lines and characters in that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And there was a new Christmas. There are a number of them.
Yeah.
There was a new animated Christmas one.
Yeah.
It's called Claus.
Okay.
And it's really
good. You recommend it?
Yeah, I recommend it. It's a good one.
A thumb up for Mr. Hunt.
A thumb up for that one.
Claus. And it's animated. Okay.
It's animated, yes.
Well, we are, having another one of our bonus episodes. Mm-hmm. We are hoping everyone's having a relaxing holiday. 2026 is coming up, so we will not be talking to everyone until next year.
Yes.
2026.
Yes.
For a lot of people, I think 2025 was a challenging year globally and in other situations. So, hoping for the best in 2026.
Well, do you remember when you were younger and you were watching science fiction?
Yes.
And 2025 was
in so many
future, like Blade Runner.
So many films. These dates that we're living now, they were in those sci-fi dystopian movies. And now we're in the middle of a dystopian movie sometimes, right?
Well, I'm happy to see that it's not exactly the way it was depicted in those science fiction movies.
It's worse in some cases. I don't know. You're such an optimist, my friend.
I'm trying to be. It's hard around you.
I know. But I'm optimistic about 2026.
Okay,
I
good.
am, just to let you know.
All right. Okay.
And we have, as I said, we have another one of our Fieldtrip Sessions, our bonus episodes. And this is another package where we put two for the price of one.
Nice.
So another present from our
gift.
a gift to
Another
our
gift.
listeners to give you 2 of our interviews that were on 2 separate episodes. Here in episode 48, we're going to give you Cyndi Gerlach,
Okay.
who was and is for many, many years a trustee in North Vancouver.
So an elected official.
Yes,
Yep.
and then we have another elected official, Clint Johnston, who was for many years the BCDF president.
And now
Yes.
he's the president of the Canadian Teachers Federation.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
So those were both really good chats. Cyndi, when we talked to her, we got in some really good discussions about diversity and inclusion in the class, and I really enjoyed where it went. And with Clint, we got great discussions, and we actually even got into a bit of cocktail discussion,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I hope listeners enjoy it. You may have heard these before, but it's the chance to hear them together, 2 for
Yes.
1. Our gift for you.
Yes, and pay attention to what Clint was talking about, milk-based cocktails. Very interesting.
Yes.
You've got New Year's coming up, and maybe you want to do a search.
This could be some ideas, right?
Some ideas
for your New
for
Year's
cocktails.
celebration.
My favorite cocktail lately has been a gin cocktail.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've really discovered gin lately.
Yes.
And just down at the shipyards, there's a distillery that
Copper Penny.
no, that I love. But actually, the shipyards have their Christmas market.
Okay.
And there's a Vancouver Island distillery that we just got some of their gin from, and they have a few other things that are infused with certain things you find on Vancouver Island. Like needles from trees and those kind of things that give things a certain flavor.
I don't want you.
I
I
should
don't
not-
want you making my gin.
I shouldn't be their spokesperson, I don't think. Happy New Year, everyone.
Yes.
We'll see you all in 2026.
Okay.
Today we are really delighted to have Trustee Cyndi Gerlach with us. Thank you for joining us on our After the Bell podcast.
My pleasure.
We always start, before we get into the nitty-gritty, a little bit of an icebreaker, right?
Yes.
Just to lighten things up. So, Roy, you going to start with that?
I'll start with that. It's ABC 1, 2, 3. So here we go. A, recess or lunch.
Recess.
B, red or blue.
Red.
C, winter or summer.
Ooh. Spring.
I like that. Yeah. It's coming soon.
Yes.
Okay, number 1, fiction or nonfiction?
Fiction.
2, apple or banana?
Apple.
3, who was your favorite teacher and why?
Mr. Bennett.
Tell us about Mr. Bennett.
Mr. Bennett was my law teacher and my history teacher. And Mr. Bennett saw me. It was, he wasn't the first teacher, but he was the teacher that saw me as me, recognized who I was as a student, because I never really quite fit in. And the other thing that I really liked about him was he made it really clear at the beginning of the class that he was never going to take attendance. He didn't care whether you passed or failed. If you didn't show up and you couldn't do the work, that wasn't on him. So he really sort of was teaching us to be responsible for our own actions, right? Because everybody. So I went to Handsworth, and we were on a modular schedule, which meant that kids were always in the hallways. So there was more opportunity for skipping class because you
Somebody would be there.
There was always somebody, right? And so he was really about, this is your education, not mine. And so I really valued that as a teacher. And I do want to say, and then we had another teacher, Mr. Evans. I had him for biology, and his thing was, there's no such thing as a wrong answer, but you're being foolish if you don't ask questions. So I always blame him for all the questions I ask.
Or thank him, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I have one little extra one. I'm a real Beatle fan. So who's your favorite Beatle?
Who's my favorite Beatle?
Yeah. Do you have one?
I do.
Okay.
I do. It's actually Ringo.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I love Ringo. Yeah.
Because he was the oddball.
Right, yeah.
He wasn't the original Beatle.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was kind of, and he had to try and fit in,
Yeah.
and he had a very different kind of way of looking at life. So, yeah.
And he just had a #1 album, his new album. It's a country album.
Oh.
He's 84 years old, and it's #1 on all the charts.
I'm going to have to go and listen
it's really
to
good. T-Bone Burnett wrote and produced it with him, and it's really
okay.
good. Yeah.
Oh, good.
So there.
Good.
Okay. How long have you been a trustee in Vancouver?
In North Vancouver?
In North Vancouver.
North Vancouver. Yeah, sorry. in
Yeah,
North
no.
Vancouver.
I was elected in 2011, so I have been a trustee for 13 years.
13 years?
Yeah.
Okay. And what inspired you to become a trustee?
The truth?
Of course.
Always the truth.
Always the truth. What inspired me, I was on, well, I ran in 2008. I didn't get elected. But I have two adult children now, but back then they were students in the school system that were autistic or that are autistic. And I really was struggling in trying to get them accepted for who they were and getting an education just like everybody else. And I advocated, and I really felt that staff started to tune me out. And so I thought, in order to make the changes that I wanted to see happen, I had to get to where policy was written. And the only way to do that is to become a trustee. So I basically was, you know what, if I really truly want to help change the structure, I had to get to where the structures were being developed.
And looking back on your time, is there something you're most proud of so far on your trustee years?
You know,
Or many things, maybe? Yeah.
I think so for me, the social justice, the policies that we've developed to really sort of start to break down barriers. So the change of policy 412, like that was huge for me because that came from a student, right? That was a student who came and had concerns. And just like, so the policy change, the fact that we do things, we're the first to do, we were the first to fly the pride and the trans flags. Those are huge for me. We have an advisory committee made up of students with disabilities, which is a first. And then currently, I got to sit. So my advocacy at the school district level also bleeds into my advocacy at the provincial level, and so I was asked to sit on a working committee for BCSTA, which is the BC School Trustees Association, and the working paper hasn't come out, but the title of it is Improving Student Outcomes for Students with Disabilities and Diverse Abilities for Trustees. So because so many trustees don't understand the issues. So, yeah. So I have a lot. I could keep going. I have a list. But yeah, most of it is around just the structure around inclusion and really looking at shifting the boat a little bit so that we can be more inclusive.
Okay. What does it mean to you to have true inclusive education?
For me, it means that each child is part of a classroom, that each child is seen for who they are, and that unfortunately, we look at the medical model in order to get a diagnosis so that you can get the resources. But for me, true inclusion in the education system would be that every child's needs would be met regardless of whether or not they have a diagnosis or that they don't, and that every child is seen as being a valuable member of the of a classroom or of a school.
Do you think it's working?
No.
No. What are some of the things that's stick out for you that you see are not working, that we're still not there yet?
I think we're still not there yet because we rely so heavily on the medical model. You might think that a person requires extra supports, but they may not get the resources they need because they don't bring in the funding.
Yes.
And so that to me is a struggle where the assumption is always on the child with the disability to be the one that has to comply with all of the structures and the rules. I think we do a disservice to inclusion because we don't actually educate the children and often the adults on how to be inclusive for the different needs of the students. Like if we really, I think we need to listen to the kids, right? So, and if you are a non-speaker or a minimal speaking student, you might have externalizing behaviors. But instead of listening to what that child is trying to tell you that their needs are, we are trying to get them to behave in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What can the district do to better support diversity and inclusion in the classrooms?
What can the district do? I'd like to see where there was more professional development for the people who work in the system, but also for the parents on understanding what diversity, equity, and inclusion looks like, but from the people with the lived or life experience, right? It's really easy to read a textbook and then think that you know something. The reality is 20 years ago when my kids started in the system, what was understood then, even 5 years ago, like it keeps evolving because we're learning from the people that are now getting a voice. I think that we need to be listening more to what the students are saying. So the students have an opportunity to tell us what is their challenges are, but then what do we do with that, right? What are the adults doing with that? But then also what are the adults' needs? So, being able to say, so if I was a teacher, and I've never been a teacher, but I've spent some time, not very much time, not like you guys in a classroom.
Yes.
But if I had a student that I didn't necessarily understand their needs, where do I go, right? Who's the expert? So if our teachers don't have the resources, then they can't help the kids. And if they can't help the kids, then the kids get frustrated. Like it's this revolving door. And really, I would love for there to be more opportunities for people to be able to reach out and have conversations with people with the lived experience. Like I feel lucky that I've had principals or teachers who've said to me, look, I think this child is autistic. Can you tell me, can you give me something to work with, right? Like we don't know if they are or they aren't. And it's really nice. It's really uplifting. But I wish that we could break down the barriers, right? Like that to me, the attitudinal barriers, I wish
the barriers more because of a lack of funding, or like what do you see is why those barriers are still there?
Well, lack of funding is one. And I think that's always going to be an issue and a challenge. I think that comes with inclusion because inclusion is expensive, right? Like there's no denying that. There's system barriers, there's environmental barriers, but there's also attitudinal barriers. And I think if we can reach through the attitudinal barriers, that would also break down, would help. And what I mean by that is if we think that somebody, or I always go to the non-speakers, like that's still my biggest want and desire is that non-speakers are seen as people who can still learn, but just because they can't communicate, it's not their fault. I look at it as our fault, the adults, all adults, because we haven't figured out a way to help them. And so, but that takes time. It takes time. It takes money. It takes, but I think over 13 years, we can find a way to support and help. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. Now, my next question, it's a big red flag. And I'll preface it. You and I first met when I was president of the North End Teachers Association. Yep. And so we came always to our conversations with a different lens. Yep. But I always really appreciated our discussions. And I think we learned to kind of respect what the other one was talking about. And this is to do with designations in the class and the number of students with designations. And we currently have limits to those number of students in each class. And do you think there should be a limit of those students? He asked rhetorically.
Rhetorically? No, I don't. I think when we put limits, well, first of all, that's a medical model. Right? And so, because there's lots of kids who don't have a diagnosis, who are then not part of your designated children, right? And so, for me, it's a social justice issue. It's a human rights issue. And I look back at the evolution of what education was. So if we go back to the beginning of time, it was only for men. It was only for men of an elite class. And evolved over time, and each group's had to sort of fight to get their right to be educated. I mean, we still have girls not being educated in different parts of the world. And so for me, this is just a group of children that require more supports and more different types of learning, right? It's no longer that we sit in rows. When I went to school, we sat in rows, and if you fell behind like I did, it was you sat at the back of the class and best of luck to you. I think so the answer is no. But I would like to see better ways of creating classrooms. So COVID for me was, I really hope that when we came out of COVID, that we could look at restructuring our education system, because we found that there were a number of kids that really did well with that online learning. Lots of kids didn't. We had an opportunity to look at, to change the system, to change the model of the way we did education. And we didn't. We just went back into the same
with the limit. So would you agree that it does come from a good place? The reason for it, it's to make sure that those students get the supports they need. And if there are numbers that are just beyond the ability of that teacher to deal with, then there's something wrong with the system?
I understand the thinking, but if I'm the only child, so I look at it through the lens of the child. If I'm the only child with a disability in the classroom that has significant needs, and I don't see anybody else that looks like me or acts like me, then I feel isolated, right? And I think I'm going to turn it around a little bit. Okay. Because my kids went through the system where there weren't limits because the contract had been stripped, right? There was, in my mind, from a parent, there was flexibility to group kids based around needs. And so I do remember there was teachers that could handle or had the ability and the skill set to be able to support had more of those children, and I hate that kind of language, but had more children with disabilities in it than other teachers did. Yeah. I think if we could recreate the wheel, and if we didn't have caps, could we have team teaching, right? Where you have a teacher who's a regular ed teacher, if I could use that language, and a teacher who has specialized training. And so 2 teachers to a classroom, so that you have the ability to work with certain kids, and that blended model, I think, could work. But again, that's it's a hard thing to.
I mean, I think teachers would agree with you. Something's not working. Like for many of them, they feel like they're throwing a roll of duct tape. And
Yes.
Just deal with this.
Yeah.
And it's on them all the time to deal
Yeah.
with something that is getting more and more impossible to deal with and more challenging in terms of, and it's not just the number of designated students, it's just the whole system. And kids,
whole system
kids are
is-
coming with more and more needs.
Absolutely.
And throw social media in there and the online world and so many issues now
Yeah.
that right now, I do not think it's sustainable.
I think the system, the way we have it right now, doesn't work. And I do remember saying this years ago, that a third of the students, and this is like 10 years ago, a third of the students in the classroom have unique needs. And yet we're not, and we haven't done enough to keep up with the change of society and all of that. And so I think, I mean, let's go back even further. You know, my question to you would be, do you think that teachers coming out of teaching college, and I'll use that as have the skill sets that they need to teach in today's classrooms versus do they?
Yeah, they probably do not.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's go back even further and let's look at how are we educating teachers so that they have different skills to teach in today's classroom. And then, you know, let's bring in educational assistants. Do they have the skills to be able to support? And can they, like, there's so many nuances to this that you can't, there's no one blanket answer. And I think we have to look at everything, right from the education of teachers, education of educational assistants. Like for me, they should be paraprofessionals, not educational.
I was going to ask that. Yeah.
But I think there's also a huge disservice when we have, you know, other school districts that have programs where we'll teach you for 6 weeks or 4 weeks or 3 weeks, and now we're going to put you in and you're going to go and support some of our higher needs kids, and we wonder why people are getting hurt in school, right? Like there should be a higher level of expectations for, because I you know, I remember when North Vancouver was first doing educational assistance, and my neighbor's son has dyslexia, and they pulled in the crossing guard to come in and support him because they didn't have a support, and that was and like, I mean, that was back then, but I really think that we're doing a disservice to our kids by not having that. So, sorry, I didn't mean to throw the questions back at you, but
Feel free. Yeah.
Yes. I guess then what we're looking at, when we've talked about teachers and we've talked about our EA, our educational assistants, what support would you like to see from the government to kind of put this into place? What kind of supports do you think that should be coming from our government, from our provincial government to support our students?
I think that I'm it's easy to throw the provincial government under the bus, right? Because they're the ones that tax us. They're the ones that give us the money. But I think my frustration lies with government is, we'll go back to 2001. When was the contract stripped?
It was around that time,
Yeah. So the government of the day stripped the contract. we had a generation and a half of kids that go through the school system. The BCTF won the court case. The language was put back in, and it was put back in as being 10 years old, right?
Yes.
It didn't get to evolve, right?
It didn't get to evolve because there wasn't. And so we're trying to make changes now. Government could increase funding. And I know this is always a thing. They can increase funding, but then what happens with that funding, right? Like, can they make more targeted funding towards kids with unique needs? Those that have higher needs, could they do that? Sure, they could. Could government ask the universities to create, change the teaching programs so that, teachers had better skills when they came out? And I'm not saying that they don't have great skills. They do. Could it be better? Sure.
Always.
Yeah.
Could they mandate standards for educational assistants and make them paraprofessionals and make them work, not make them work, that sounds bad, but
Make
have
it a professional career so you have.
Well,
you don't
yeah,
have
so
to
they're
have another
working
job.
at 35 and a half or 37 and a half is considered full-time, whatever the full-time hours are, so that they have that and that they keep getting professional development by, so they can keep up. The disability world is evolving so quickly that if you don't stay on top of it, you're out of date. So I'm not a big believer that just giving more money to a system is the best idea.
It's gonna fix it. Yeah.
Because I believe that everybody needs to be paid a salary to which allows them to be able to live in the communities, right? So I do believe in that. But I also believe that the system isn't working. And we can create roundtables, and I've seen this happen where we bring all the stakeholders together and we have conversations. Well, we have conversations for 2 or 3 years and nothing changes. I think the whole system has to be completely overhauled because it's based on a system that's over 100 years old. And it's not working. Today's society isn't allowing us to really be flexible, right? And so, I'm not answering the question because that is a heavy question.
It's so heavy. Yes. And the challenge is getting to that place where all the parties agree and stakeholders, where they have to kind of have the confidence to give something up, knowing that's the one thing, like having limits in the class. At least you go, that's something, I can see that.
Yeah.
That's allowing this class to provide that teacher with maybe the time they need to make that happen. So if you're going to say, let's change that, if it's something that people are going, I don't know, is that, it's a lot of trust, I guess, maybe. But also there has to be a willingness, I do think, to throw more money into the classroom to support that teacher, because I think a lot of teachers feel it's kind of top down and, everything gets decided up there. And if they get a few little pennies down into the classroom, they're supposed to just make it work.
Sure. And I understand that. I think because one of the things that we don't do well is actually listen to the kids, right? So when I was in school, integration was just starting. But let's, I don't know what it would be like to be in a school today with all of the things, but how do we uplift what the students are telling us and then saying, okay, how do we resource what the students are telling us, right? Like, let's have the students also guide us in what the needs are of today. I think the whole thing around the cell phone, the personal devices was a good idea. But it was 10 years too late. We've lost a whole lot of kids and their parents to not understanding how addictive that was. So now we're trying to do it now. We always seem to be after.
It's all catch up.
But we're doing it all the time, right? We always seem to be wanting to do that catch up.
And it's usually society now has a problem
Yes.
school fix it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Well, and we have this great opportunity because with the new BC NDP government that was elected offered EAs in the classroom.
Yeah.
And so here's an opportunity to look at these EAs being put in the classroom. So what does an EA need? What are the requirements to help to support the EA to help support the students because of this changing environment?
And it's a great point. There's a downside to also let's put EAs in the classroom. And the downside is we can't find EAs right now because we're not giving them full-time hours. It's not a profession, right? And the other thing too, where do you go from there? Right? Like, so if you start, if an educational assistant is frontline work and they're doing that one-to-one or with groups, or where do you go? Like, you gain all these skills, then what?
Yes.
Right? Like, you can't move up in the organization. I mean, you can go back to school part-time and become a teacher. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing really to hold you in that because it's frontline work all the time. And so I think we really need to give them that professionalism
I completely agree with that. Absolutely. Right? No, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a key piece in all this.
And they
It's
need to
making
be
it a profession
considered
that
true
provides
partners.
a salary that you can live on,
Yeah.
right? And that's your focus, not, I'm making my 5 hours a day and now I have to go to my other job after school, right? Just because I have to
or it's not
survive here.
Yeah, it's not even that. It's also when you have an EA in a classroom and you have that support. As a classroom teacher, you have that support and you go, thank you. Now, we all can move forward. Everybody can have some success and say, I have to leave now.
Well, and there's that. So
right.
originally when my kids were in the system, it was bell to bell, right? If they work bell to bell, like 9 to 3. So there was no opportunity for collaboration between the teacher and the EA, right? And so EAs were coming in and trying to make resources while they're supposed to be supporting students. And so I think, our school district anyways made a concerted effort to try and change that in order to attract people. But again, it's still not, I don't think, I would love to see us be able to say that we can offer full-time. But that means the government also needs to step up and pay and ensure that we have the money to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? Because I do believe that the teachers and an educational assistant are partners. And if we can have true partnership where there is that teacher's the lead, but then they have that support, but the teacher knows that EA has the ability to
But
help.
that requires the time, though, for them to be able to consult
Absolutely.
and decide that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, who's next?
Who's next?
I'm curious. Do you think the classroom is always the best situation, your regular public school classroom? Are there situations with students with designations where maybe a classroom that's designed just for that student is okay?
Oh dear.
I'm avoiding to say special schools, right? But because I think some parents do advocate for that too. Do they not?
Sure, parents do advocate for it.
It's not a unified voice out there that.
So I think to me this is a slippery slope. All right, because so when my eldest started in the school system, he started in September. June they had closed the last resource room in elementary school. I think my fear is if we start to create specialized classrooms again, we're going to undo all the great work that we've done. I'm in the adult world now, right? My kids are adults. To me, an inclusive classroom whereby we have all kinds of kids, I want to. That's how we change society. So, my younger son has behaviors, and when he has behaviors in the community, people know, right? Today, compared to 20 years ago, where I was judged and yelled at and told that my child shouldn't be out in community, now if there's behaviors, I get people who come and say, what can we do to help? Tell us what we can do. That shift is huge. And so for me, if we want a more inclusive society, the only way there is through an inclusive education system. And we have private schools, right? We have independent schools. We have other ways of doing things. But when I see the kids in the community when I have my child, you can hear them whispering because they don't have the experience that our kids in our public school system have. Mm-hmm. So for me, an inclusive classroom and all that comes with it, both good and not so good, is going to change our society to be more inclusive.
Yeah. And the most positive change I've seen since I started teaching, which was 1990, was with the students themselves. Everyone else, all the other students, they are a far more accepting group than I've ever seen before. Yeah. And
they will become, and I'm seeing that in the young teachers. They're not as uncomfortable, right? And so, I think we are evolving. I think we still don't understand kids that struggle with behavior. I think we're trying to get the kids to conform, to be when in my mind they're trying to make people understand their needs are not being met. So I think if we can provide different training for people, different understanding, and if I had to restructure, according to Cyndi, I would have every single school would have a sensory room, would have a place where if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I could go there but I'm not by myself. I'm not but other kids are there too, right? Like we all feel overwhelmed at times.
We're in schools that were built in the 60s and 70s,
Absolutely.
Right? So they don't have that, and that's a big part of it too.
Which is why I think that environmental barrier is creating barriers for that as well.
I mean, I know there are classrooms where a teacher does have, these once or twice a week, sometimes every day, they have to take their class and leave that classroom because the policy now is more to leave the student if there's issues going on and they're throwing things or they're having a moment. Do you think that's a sign that's good that happens, or it's a sign that there's still something broken, that if a teacher has to leave the class, that maybe the EA support isn't there, or there's other things going on, or I think that's where a lot of teachers will find fault with the system, thinking now they're leaving, once a day because of the situation, and that takes away the education of the other kids in that moment.
Gosh, you guys.
That's been in my head as we've been talking. Yes. Should I go there? I'm going to go there.
You're going to go there.
Yeah.
So, because I have experience, I have personal experience, I have a child who fit that criteria. And when you touch an individual that is heightened and try and get them to leave the classroom, the person or persons they're likely to be hurt, right? Asking the children to leave the classroom and leaving that person in that space actually helps to de-escalate them a lot faster. I get where you're going with this, and I think so the things that come to my mind would be, did that child just explode? Did you miss the signals in advance? Are you trying to do you like pick your battle, right?
Yeah.
Like I know my son, I can't speak to all the other children, but he had telltale signs, right?
Right.
And if he was stressed and you were trying to push him to comply, he's becoming more stressed. And then eventually he erupts, right? And it was through his experience, and the students were able to say to me, it was easier for them to leave than to watch him being pulled out of a classroom, because his peers, his friends, that was hard on them.
That would be very hard on them, for sure.
So having the teacher leave, let everybody, go, we're going to go in the library, actually was more beneficial because there isn't that trauma on both sides. It was, I tell this story, so when we're not going down FSAs, but when the children were writing, they actually wrote about my son, two of the kids, and one of them they talked about my son in the classroom and how they stood up for him when adults were trying to tell him that, he needed to behave in a certain way, and they say, no, just leave him alone. He's okay. He'll calm down. Or they would say to him, you know what? If you don't do your work, you can't play with us at recess. So that's why I think we have to listen to the kids, right? And so is it ideal? No. Is it the best solution we have right now? Yes. If somebody can tell us a better way to do it where everybody's dignity is intact, then let's sit down and have that conversation.
Yeah, no, thank you.
But it's interesting because what I love about what you just said is then you're bringing in the students and the peers of students, and the idea is that they're supporting each other. I've, as a TTOC, I've been teacher on call, and I've gone into classrooms, and I always go in and say, okay, I say to the class, you're my teachers, right? Your teacher's done a great job of putting a day plan together, and I'm just putting my feet into your teacher's shoes, but you are my teachers. Can you tell me things that I need to know? And oftentimes, the students will share all those things about other students in the class, and they do it in a positive way. They're saying, and so I'll ask about one student and say, okay, well, this is the thing that our teacher does, or this is what we do to support this student in the classroom. And if anything, those are those opportunities to go, wow, that's inclusion and support. And when you see that, and for myself as a teacher, that is so heartwarming, right? It's just to see, yes, that's an opportunity to observe things that are working.
Yeah. Now, if it's not working and it's happening regularly, then we need to look at what the antecedents are. What is it about that classroom, right? Is it the smell? Is it they're visually overloaded? Is whatever it is, we need to be better detectives. And you know what? Sometimes asking their peers.
Yes.
Because their peers are seeing things that we don't see.
Yes. And we have a plan. We say, okay, this is the plan. Let's stick to it. And you say, and then it's tough sometimes to say, like, this plan's not working. We have to come up with a new plan, because that takes time and energy that oftentimes classroom teachers don't have. But the importance is, by putting that time and energy into creating a new plan, then we're supporting that student. We're supporting the students in the classroom and helping things to get better.
And if we had, so one of the things I liked about the older model where we had, gosh, I can't even remember what the name of the LST and the LAC teacher is. The LST teacher had the ability to really get to know the children, right, and to help support that. And sometimes if we had sensory rooms, like I remember for my kids, I was able to get the school to create a space where there was a swing or a punching bag where they could go and let off steam, or if the kids needed a quiet space because they were writing an exam and my son was being noisy, well, they could take his work and do it in another spot. But there was other children in there as well. So I think we have to stop trying to force everybody into the same mold. I get there's one teacher and up to 30 kids, but how can we do it in such a way that respects everybody? And we got to change our buildings.
So on that, well, let's end on a positive note.
Hey, this is all positive.
No, it is. And you've touched on many of these things, but I want you to go in the future and say, describe to us the perfect public education system that truly is inclusive. If you see it in action, you come back and you go, okay, this really is inclusive. What are you seeing?
I see. What do I see? So I'm going to go from the students up. Okay. So I see students, all kinds of students, in a classroom together. I don't see desks or rows. I see sensory stuff that students might need that's easily accessible. So I might, if there's, we'll just say 30. I know that that's way over the limit, but we're just going to say 30. Let's go 25.
Okay.
No, let's go 20. Classes of 20.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Classes of 20. Earphones for everybody, right? Different kinds of chairs. So maybe I come to school and I need a wiggly chair or I need a hard chair. Classrooms are designed for what the children's needs are, right? We have we have teachers who've had different types of education training out of universities. We have co-teaching when there's a need, right? Maybe it's through academics. Maybe it's I'd like to see schools to be all parts of schools to be educational opportunities. So, why can't we look at, let's talk about our gifted kids. So we have kids that are highly gifted in math. So can we create a math program where kids are getting their math, but they're struggling in LAC? And if we don't necessarily look at age, because we know today that there are kids, like just because you're 5, you can be 5 and have a birthday in January and be 5 and have a birthday in December. And that year, could we look at different ways of providing education based on ability and based on need as opposed to based on age? That would be another thing for me. Schools have to be all torn down and rebuilt for today. So you might have quiet rooms, more acoustically friendly, sensory rooms in all of the schools, and that includes high schools. Like, we make an assumption that these kids who have sensory needs don't need it in high school. So there's no swings in high school. There's no things that we use all the time, right? So let's look at the continuum of students, but the continuum of need. And why should a high school be a whole lot different than an elementary school, right? So for me, I want to see inclusive education will be about need, right? And I had a son who was gifted in math, and he had peers that were gifted in math, and it was hard to get his math education needs met. So could we not have created? I used to use math a lot, but I also know we're not. We all don't fit into the same box.
No.
Right? We don't.
Yeah.
And so some people are super highly academic, others are not. I'm a kinesthetic learner, and yet there was no kinesthetic learning. There still really isn't kinesthetic learning. Can we learn math through different means? So if I'm struggling, can I look at I look at Mountainside? why do we have just Mountainside? Why can't Mountainside be part of our regular school system where we're doing more hands-on? There's just so many different ways of providing education. We need to get out of the box.
Yeah.
We need to get out of the box. And,
Yeah.
I'm not answering that question
you
because...
really did. You really did.
You did. I loved the way you discussed about the changes in the rooms, the changes in the schools, and tearing the schools down to create spaces that aren't there right now. I mean, there are many schools right now they're really old, and they're overcrowded, and there's hardly any space for the students themselves.
Yeah.
And so that has to be rethought. So I loved what you said.
Thank you.
And thank you for this. You talked about listening to the students, and a big point of our podcast is that too many of us are in our bubbles and we don't listen to each other anymore. So we really appreciate this chance to listen to you and to share this conversation. Thank you.
Oh my, you gave me some hard questions, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Clint. We really appreciate you coming on after the bell. Roy and I are excited about this, and we always start off with an icebreaker.
Fantastic.
ABC, 1, 2, 3, just to get going. Just whatever pops into your head, say it.
All right.
Don't overthink it, okay?
Okay. So A, recess or lunch?
Lunch for sure.
Lunch, okay. B, apple or banana?
100% banana.
Oh, okay. C, mojito or margarita?
Oh, mojito.
And did I remember right? You make your own cocktails?
I absolutely am a cocktail lover and a cocktail maker. Yeah, for sure.
What's your favorite cocktail to make?
Oh, well, that's tough. To make or to drink?
Let's hear both.
I think, so my favorite one to make probably is I really got into milk punches.
Okay.
Milk clarified punches. I don't know if you ever had
No,
one.
no.
It's what it sounds like. A lot of strong citrus in it, and then you make it up and you mix it in with milk.
Okay.
And the milk curdles, and it takes the color, any bitterness or astringency in that out, and you get essentially clear cocktail.
Wow.
Yeah, they're wild. They're wild. So, and to drink, I don't know. I've had some amazing, gorgeous kind of one-offs, but probably just a straight up one of my favorites has got to be an old fashioned. I like a bourbon old fashioned.
Okay. Yeah. Classic.
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. What was your favorite book as a child?
Oh, as a child, a huge science fiction fan, but also, I don't know. I mean, I read The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings probably 3 or 4 times by the time I was a teenager.
Same.
But I think probably one of my favorites was Stranger in a Strange Land. A lot of twists and a lot of issues that I realize now.
Well, I love
about
Robert
the writer
Heinlein,
in the
right?
book. But
I was so into him as a child.
Oh, 100%.
And then later on in life, you realize, was he a fascist?
Oh, There's some problematic things there, but Stranger in a Strange Land, and partly for the kind of the thought of an open, thought of non-conventional ideas.
And science fiction was great for that, especially when you're young, to explore different worlds and what it could be and try out different thoughts.
I always tell my kids that really good science fiction isn't about the science; it's about the analysis of society and culture.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2, if you could listen to only one piece of music for the rest of your life, and you don't have to listen to it nonstop, but if you could have only one piece, what would that piece of music be?
Probably, you'll find out at some point in here, I'm sure, that I choke up quite easily. Probably Wonderful Tonight, because
Eric
it's
Clapton, yeah.
my wife and I's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Was it at an earlier stage of your life you had that song?
At our
or
wedding.
just a wedding. It was a wedding
our
song.
first dance wedding.
Wonderful.
First dance at our wedding, yeah.
Who was your favorite teacher when you grew up, when you were young? And why?
Oh.
Why were they your favorite teacher? Is there one you can think of that stands out?
Probably, I guess maybe it's tight, but probably, I guess, Mr. Fultz.
Okay.
And he was my grade 7 teacher at Yarrow Elementary. I played on the Brain Scramble team, and I had some educational issues as a child, and I think he was a really good person for me to have in grade 7 because I had some struggles both in and out of the class, and he just seemed very patient and very understanding, and probably one of my most memorable for sure.
And where was this?
This was Yarrow.
Okay.
I was born and grew up essentially in Yarrow, technically in Sardis, but in Yarrow really. And so Chilliwack, Yarrow Elementary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do a bonus one.
Okay,
All right.
Who's your favorite child?
Whichever one is closest and available to do jobs. How's that?
Yeah. Good answer. Okay. So just to get started, tell us about your pre-BCTF career as a teacher.
All right, so pre-BCTF career as a teacher is a bit weird and probably a little bit shorter than people might think. So I actually I worked in trades, I guess, essentially.
Okay.
My father's a pipeline welder, so I used to work on gas pipelines. I was a welder's helper, but in the winters, because in BC it doesn't freeze enough most places to work in the winter in pipelines, so I worked in a wood mill, a reman mill, and when I was 23, lost my hand in a planer accident.
Okay.
And so I had to retrain. So I was a little bit later the freshman because that wasn't the track I was on. But anyways, when I finally graduated, I already had 2 children. I went to uni and had 2 children and ran the intramurals program and worked while I went to uni with 2 kids and a full course load. And I went to England because I needed to work. I needed to work full time to make money. And that wasn't really possible at the time. I don't know if you remember, but at that time when I graduated, jobs were scarcer. And you worked the TTOC list part time.
Yes, long time.
Yeah, I couldn't do that, right? So went to England for 5 years, 2003 to 2008. And taught over there and learned they have a horrific system, but we won't diverge into that. So 5 years there, came back to Chilliwack, got hired right away. I'm elementary. I had a PE is my initial degree, BHK. And so I did 4 years as a TTOC. The first year, I just kind of went all over and did everything. And then the next two of those next 3 years, I had a grade 2 assignment covering someone for mat leave, so pretty much the full year. And I forget what I did the other year. How bad is that? And then I got hired. My first full-time contract, actually, I got hired at Central Elementary, doing a 4-5 split class. And it was kind of funny because the principal who hired me had met me because our daughters danced together, and that I think was one of the reasons she was interested, hired me. Worked there for a year, and then I became the president of the Chilliwack Teachers Federation Association, Chilliwack Teachers Association, and she became the second in position at the HR for the district. So we went our 2 separate ways and still kept seeing each other all the time. Wow. So that's kind of my,
after your accident, how long was it before you kind of
got into teaching? I think. Let's see. I started my first year of teaching in England was 2003. So that would be. I go around 1994, so it was quite a while. It was 8 or 9 years.
I would imagine that was kind of a period of discovery.
It was a period of
you're forced to change direction so dramatically.
Right? And I mean it was because like I said, I love learning and I love that kind of stuff. But I had my relationship with formal schooling had not been the strongest. And so, it was a huge change, both personally and then also kind of figuring out what to do from there. I have a lot of sympathy for children when they go to uni because I was an adult and I went to uni and I was like, oh my goodness, what do I want to do? This is too much, right? Yeah. Did a year of engineering first. Okay. I started off, I'd always been interested in math and physics, and then found out what the jobs were most likely to be and was like, that's not for me, and I'd been coached growing up and enjoyed sports a lot, team sports, and had started coaching initially my nephews and then coached some children and really liked that. So I thought, teaching similar. It's not, spoiler alert. But so I kind of ended up wandering over into teaching.
And I think a lot of people, that's their first kind of opening to the idea of teaching is coaching and dealing with kids in that way.
Yeah. And it's not at all the same thing, but I was glad that the element that they have in common was the chance to have an impact on a kid's life and to build that relationship and to watch them grow. So that was the part they have in common, and that was enough. That was. And
good. You obviously knew you liked working with kids. With some people would coach and go, I can't do this for a career.
Well, and I don't know what the two of your experience was, but when I got to uni, it was shocking to me because when you do I got a Bachelor of Human Kinetics, but the whole way through when you're doing physical education, you're talking about kids and you're engaging with kids and you're learning about them. And I got to my education year.
Yeah.
And I met people like they came from math backgrounds and they had never yet engaged with children. And I thought, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Like of all the parts that are easiest or hardest to learn, that's the
kind
hardest.
of the vital part.
Yeah.
Right?
Like why, how have you, and they were nervous about like, oh, I got to work with kids. And I'm like, you know, that's your next 35 years, right? And so,
I hadn't done a lot because I was straight, got my degree in political science, and at 22 did a degree in education, and I'd done some volunteering and teaching and thought I would love this, but I was young. I was full-time teaching by 24.
Yeah.
Well,
and I think a lot of people, they don't really know what it is. That's why I think the dropout rate in teaching, it's what part of it is, it's such a hard job, but some people, it's not meant for them.
Yeah. I started out in geology. And I spent 2 years underground. And after 2 years underground, I realized I needed to meet people. But I've always been involved in, as a kid, I was always involved in like summer camps. And I was a counselor over the summers. But I volunteered before I went to teachers college just to make sure that I was on the right path. And I volunteered in a number of community centers. Yeah. And the joy that I had from that volunteer experience just solidified my passion to teach.
Well, and that's amazing. That's such a good idea because I genuinely think, it's the hardest part, but it's also, you can't fake it because the kids know right away. And you can be an amazing technical teacher, instructor, but if you can't relate and build relationships and the kids feel that, you're in for a tough time.
I said the other day on our podcast, kids have a great BS detector. They know a genuine person in front of them right away.
Yeah,
right?
And if you can't do that, you're in trouble, right?
Okay. So you shared a little bit about getting involved in the union.
Yeah.
Why?
I think my trajectory for union involvement is probably not that unusual. The way I did it was probably unusual, but like a lot of members, I've been brought up in a union family, by the way, because my dad's a pipeline welder. I mentioned that, and the UA 170 Plumbers and Pipe Fitters was my first union. So, like the union part of things, fully on board, fully engaged, union member. But I had questions. I had some gnawing questions about why things were being done. I was a bit critical of what was happening and didn't really understand it. Particularly in the year where there was a big bargaining, as there always is, right? And there was some job action, and there was things, and I didn't understand why I was seeing the decisions I was or what was coming out, and kind of always taught growing up, you can either get involved and have an opinion or keep your opinion to yourself, and so I got engaged a bit. Now that's where my story probably veers, because once I decided, well, I might try and get engaged and actually do some union work. The first thing I did was I ran from the floor for president in my local. That was the first union role I pursued. But it was out of a genuine I don't understand why we're doing what we're doing, and I didn't agree with everything I saw. And again, spoiler alert, I've learned a lot and now understand how and why some of that was happening. But I think that's how a lot of our members get engaged. They don't understand why we're doing what we're doing, and they join us to find out what's going on. Which
is so much better than the alternative is just to complain, and then you don't say anything. You complain behind doors, and then you say, get involved. Oh, I don't want to. I'm not political, right?
I saw that one. We'll get there.
Yeah,
but,
right?
Well, and I think partly because I have no issue with people complaining. That's as you both know, that's a good chunk of our job is what we hear. But if you're complaining in order to try and improve things and help things and make a change that's going to help members and stuff, sure. I can listen to that all day, but if you're really just complaining but don't want to be involved in any type of solution, that's hard. Yeah.
Do you find it hard balancing your work life with your family life?
What is this work-life balance that you speak of?
5 kids.
I say that really quite tongue-in-cheek, but I think it's weird to be so fully aware of something and yet to have a hard time addressing it, right? Because no is the answer. I don't think I do a great job. I think I do a decent and acceptable job, as evidenced by my partner, my wife still being with me, and my kids still being around. But it is, no, I don't think we do. And I've even tried hard, both of you engaged in the local, I tried to put up boundaries, reasonable, respectful boundaries. I was fully aware that it wasn't a job that was 9 to 5. Like I knew that, and I take that on, and but I also think that you have to set some boundaries. You can't be taking calls on Christmas Eve. If someone is imminently like in a dire physical situation or is going to get fired immediately, maybe. But I think you have to set those barriers. And I did that. But at the level I'm at now, I don't know how it's possible because there is too much to do.
And I found that I wanted to set boundaries as local president, but I'm not going to take emails at a certain time. I would be taking emails and things my wife could see. It would weigh on me. I mean, you're dealing with some pretty heavy things, and it got to me.
We were
really
talking. We were talking. It does. We were talking this morning and about. I got a long drive ahead of me later today, and Holly was saying, "Oh, I'll send you these podcasts of President Obama and someone else." And I'm like, they sound really amazing and interesting, but I actually there's everything weighs on me, and my actual. What I look for now is some time to not make decisions, not think about heavy subjects, which sounds terrible, but really it is because it weighs on you. You take those calls. I think the key thing for me, just to answer your question more directly, I don't do a great job of balancing. I think I do an okay job. The main thing to me is you have to be brutally honest and a bit pessimistic with your partner about what this will look like. And I say be a bit pessimistic so that you can sometimes go, oh, wait, it wasn't quite as bad as we thought it was, right? Yeah. But if you're not honest with your partner and your children when they get to the right age about what's coming and what it might be like, I don't know how you would do it because that's what's helped me.
Mm-hmm. So then how do you find calm in all of the things that are going on? What is what do you do that's going to center you?
I think it's cocktails. I mean, for me, it was I love the garden, right? And I found gardening was my calm, right? Yeah. So is there something that you have as your calm?
Oh, it's tough. I can't lie. A lot of times now, if I only have a couple hours when I get home, I want to watch a TV show that takes me away. I think, though, in terms of what we do as calm, we have a lovely place. Our actual home is on Main Island now. And it's rare, but when I can get there, that's beautiful. We garden, we do stuff. But I think it is cocktails in a sense, and I hope that doesn't sound too bad on a podcast, but it is the making of them. And the reason I actually ended up getting into cocktails, I actually love cooking. Our family is very centered around cooking and food. We've always cooked almost every meal and eaten most of them together. It was a thing that we both agreed on, Holly and I. And I love cooking. I love the creativity of it. I'm not an artist in any sense at all. But that was always calming and soothing and enjoying. But the time to do that got less and less. Yeah. But you can do a similar thing with cocktails. It's a creative aspect to it, a fun food aspect to it. You bring joy to other people. So it genuinely is probably cocktails now. And cooking when I can get a chance.
Yeah. Wow.
What do you do for calm, Roy?
I love the barbecue. I have a big barbecue.
Yeah.
I love to, find a barbecue recipe, something different with a brisket, get a smoker and smoke something and just those kinds of things. My family gets tired of all the meat.
Well, if you have extra meat, we got a lot of mouths that are happy to have some brisket anytime you got it. But I hear you. That's a great way to do it, and that's part of the food thing.
It's
also
that social part, right? That we've lost in so many things with our online world and everything, and our prepared food that we just put in the microwave.
Yep.
Cooking is a social thing. If you can do it that way, or making cocktails, and you play some music. There's something, you're interacting with people. It's that we're losing. That I think when we try to find the balance, that we don't have the balance anymore, right?
It's 100%, and I think that's why cooking, fully recognizing too. That's why I say it's become more cocktails probably because there's a difference between cooking for joy when you have time and cooking 3 meals a day to feed a family. Yes. I straight up know that. It is your joy for cooking dies pretty quick when you're on the hook for 3 meals a day. But it is. It's nice because the kids can be in there sometimes helping, sometimes just hanging around, and it's nice.
And the flip side of finding the balance is we're talking about people finding the calm, but I think sometimes people need to find the political side.
Oh, my goodness.
So many people, you get involved in politics or union politics, and they say, well, I'm not political, right? You hear that all the time. And I like to say, well, you take out the recycling. Like, you've made a decision. Yeah. Like, they go, what are you talking about? Well, you've made a decision. In life, you constantly are deciding where you're participating in your democracy. Yeah. And if you're not doing something, I think you're being political. So what are your thoughts on that?
Just 100% agreement. I mean, there is no such thing as being apolitical. I think our kids, I'm sure whichever children you all have experienced the same thing. They've been exposed to a lot of politics, but it's mostly that sense. Like, I'm actually not big political really at all. I don't belong to parties. I don't get involved in that apparatus, except very mildly once in a while. But every single thing I do is political, right? We have signs in our houses about, acceptance of the queer community. We have taken our kids to events to, commemorate missing and murdered Indigenous women in that. Everything we do is political. The fact that we pay taxes and explain to my children who now pay taxes, why and where it goes and how that works. No, I think people who say I'm not political are kidding themselves. And it's that, probably the key point is what you said, people who attempt to absent themselves from politics, you have made a political choice. You've chosen the status quo. And you've accepted the status quo as a thing that can't be changed, or you've either accepted it as the best. And so, I don't buy that. There is no such thing as not political.
And don't you find there are usually people that actually have an opinion on things? Like, they're quick to complain.
No.
Right? Whether they're stuck in traffic or whatever it is, they'll complain, but then they'll say, I'm not political.
I've yet to meet a person who doesn't have an opinion.
Yeah, I know.
Genuinely, right? So, I don't understand, because when you say that, 100%. Why isn't the road in front of my house fixed? Why is my neighbor allowed to grow a 20-foot hedge? Like, people forget that politics isn't the big stage. It's not what you see on TV. And I think this links into the union they think of our union sometimes as the part I see on TV. I see our president babbling. I see a strike action. And no, it starts very, very micro, right?
Yes.
It's like, why am I not allowed to have a dog in my property?
Those are the things that affect us every day, right?
The things
local city politics.
I want chickens in my backyard.
100%, right? And it's funny because that's a perfect one, because why can't I have chickens in my backyard? May seem like it's very sensible. They make a mess, they're loud and that. And then you examine, here's where I go quickly. So this is why I want my mind to go blank sometimes, because that's valid. They are loud. I've had chickens. But also, how else do you really ensure that capitalism has a market to sell people food if you don't limit their ability to produce their own food? And that's not very many steps to me, right? But it is. It starts with that one. So you are political. You've accepted that we shouldn't be able to do that.
It's still getting into the politics of the BCTF. What do you see as the core values, kind of the heart and soul of the BCTF?
Oh, man, that's a tough one, because I think I got to say first, and some people might disagree, I think the core values are union values. I really think when you look at overall what we spend our money and our internal workforce, I'm talking about the employees of the Federation now, and if you want to include the locally released officers in that, I think the vast majority is still basic union values of ensuring that workers are protected in their work, both physically and job status wise. I think it's about making sure that our members, we do our best to get our members the best working conditions they have, the best salaries. I do think that's actually the core of it. Now, that said, that core has a very thick layer, I'd call it an apple almost rather than orange, because it's got a thick layer overlaid with a very clear understanding, and this links back to the last question, that serving our members literally in their classroom is one thing, but our members live in communities, and it is impossible to extricate those communities from our members, their work and their lives. And so I think we have a strong sense of social justice values that's pretty close to as core value, because I don't think it's because, as some people think, there's certain groups that have led us and that's why I think it's because we have a fundamental understanding as educators of the impact community and the people living around you and the interwoven nature of communities has on us as individuals, and therefore you can't ignore. No. You can't ignore why can't I have chickens?
As a teacher, right?
You can't ignore that my neighbor puts a sign up that I think has homophobic words on it, and what do I do about that, and how do I engage, and can my union have a place in making sure that I don't have to put up with that in my community? So I think the core is still union, the core. But I think it's got a pretty thick layer of recognizing that you can't extricate those values from the rest of our lives. Yeah.
So then how does the BCTF compare to other unions, especially in social justice issues?
I refer to the BCTF as painfully democratic. I think we compare pretty favorably. I think there's some think we compare pretty favorably because of what I said, because I think we balance out the need to do the fundamental jobs of a union, which is representation and of individual workers as well as the collective. But I think our willingness to engage in some of those bigger social issues that have as much or more of an impact on some of our members' lives puts us in a favorable light. And I think it's because one of the things that some members, I think if you're not engaged with the union, don't understand is why we seem to engage in social justice activities that appear to only affect a small number of our members. Mm-hmm. And I think it's for me, maybe this was the answer to what's our fundamental thing, is we recognize that the strength of the collective is the ability to protect the smaller numbers. That is what the collective does. It protects the individual and the smaller group. So yes, we advocate for things that improve it for everyone, but I think we do a pretty good job of recognizing also that there are small groups within our membership, both in their workplace and in their personal lives, who need that additional layer of the rest of our solidarity and work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's hard, I guess, to got to find that balance with, there are some members that think the BCTF should just focus on wages and
100%.
And they don't want to hear the social justice part.
Yeah.
And I worry because I know in the States you've got, Trump and his cronies. Mm-hmm. I don't think you should dismiss the voters for them sometimes, and we have. So it's hard to find that balance of understanding where people come from without looking down upon them and saying, hey, come on, get with the program. Well, there's a reason they have been shaped with their views. And I think, how do we find that balance where there are members and they just come from a different place, and we respect that? Because if we don't, I worry we lose them, and then you're going to get that kind of movement here in Canada.
110%. 110%. I think you have to recognize the fundamental thing I recognize very early on is that our members come from communities, and they essentially represent the diversity of those communities in everything, including opinion and perspective and voting and all of that. And I think if you don't, that's why I say we're painfully democratic. And it is a tension. We work hard to maintain it, but I understand there's a perception that sometimes it's not. But that's why we need to make sure that those spaces are available to everyone, and we have to hold space for those really difficult conversations. I hear things I don't want to hear quite often in this work. But, unless it's gone into hate speech or unless it's gone into harassment, or we need to have those conversations, because nothing turns an organization faster than people feeling like they're not listening to them. So it is a hard balance, but we have to maintain it because people have a right to engage and have their opinions, right?
I'm thinking that could be your new slogan, painfully democratic.
Painfully democratic. Painfully democratic.
That could be a good one.
I say, I'll talk about it when we get to it later, but I say you go to one AGM and it very quickly becomes clear that we're democratic, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I think in the bigger sense as well, because just to quickly link to what you asked about how we compare to other unions, and it's no slight on other unions. Every body comes up with a structure that works best for its membership. But I think we compare quite favorably there as well, where you look at the amount of knowledge our members have during bargaining, the amount of ability to give input to our major decisions. I think we do really well there. And I think that's also why we sometimes have so many issues. Because when you allow space and you have hard conversations, it's going to create some friction, and you have to deal with that friction. But we need to be willing to do that work so that we can have those hard conversations.
And encourage your convictions, kind of thing, right?
Yeah. And come out and be confident, because I'm one person. I can go and say anything I want to the media or to a politician, but if they don't think there's 50,000 people behind me, I'm just one person. Yeah. I'm nothing, right?
Yeah. So what are you most proud of as BCTF president?
I think I'm... I was going to be flippant and say proud of not having run the ship into the ground. How's that?
That's step number one, right?
So it's funny because I have a difficult time with that. I'm a very honest person. I would also say, I don't have any ego. Nobody gets to a higher political position without some ego. So there's that right there. I acknowledge that up front. Yeah. At the same time, I very much believe it's incredibly hard to take any kind of individual happiness or joy or pride. I think my pride is that we have managed to stay relevant, and some of the stuff we've just been talking about, stay relevant, stay on the edge of conversations that are hard but are very necessary, that reflect broader social conversations. I'm flat out proud, I guess, of having been part of a team that got us what I think was a pretty good deal last time. Yeah, it was fortuitous. Also, don't kid yourself. It was the right time, the right place. We made the right moves, I think, and we got what we could. So that's good. But a little bit proud of that. But mostly just proud of, I guess, also how we have, like I say, we've navigated and tried to stay in that space of having conversations we have to have, but that we could have shied away from. So I guess that's probably part of it. And I as an individual, I think I've maintained my goal of being a very inclusive in of the others, like of the vice president, the second vice, and that I've tried to make sure that I really am I don't like the word leader, but I'm a president who has tried to include them every step of the way, so that there's the chance for them to be mentored in a sense of experiences, not me telling them how things work. And so I'm kind of proud personally that I maintain that throughout, because sometimes it is easier to just go, I'm just going to make my own decision and go on. So,
Yeah.
No.
And the transition's going well, so that's a good sign that you
Oh,
have
that's good. Thanks.
the building's standing. And
But it is. It's really hard. I mean, the baseline thing is it's really hard to kind of be proud or take credit, because there's 150 something people in this building, by the way, who who support me in ways that membership will never see.
No.
And so there's
Yeah. And now you mentioned the last contract. So how are things looking at the current contractual?
Without letting any cats out of the bag, I don't
no.
think it'll surprise anyone that it's early days at the table.
Yeah.
So there's people. We both put our things on the table, and I don't think it'll surprise anyone that both sides have some stuff that the other side isn't a fan of. I think there's an added complication right now because, as you know from even publicly, there's no what they would call the mandate yet.
Right.
What that really is PSEC hasn't given the monetary value of bargaining to the employers yet. So that's a bit of a complication, and
so much uncertainty too with the economy, right? Yeah,
so much uncertainty, and that's what I was going to say. There's a clarity that there's a deficit. It's very uncertain is the best word. It's not that it's hard; it's uncertain economic times. But I think I retain a grain of optimism because I've watched who is the party that's forming government right now. I watched them through COVID make some what I thought were the right decisions and maintain deficit spending to do things that were good for British Columbians. Because I try to give credit where credit's due. They did that. I've seen them do that. So I know they can, and they should know they can. So I'm optimistic that even though things are difficult and unpredictable, that they should have learned the value of making the right investments even when it's hard. And so that's what we're going to lean on hard is when things are tough, you prioritize, and there shouldn't be much higher priority than education and health, right?
So what keeps you up at night when you think of the future of public education?
I think there's quite a few things that keep me up at night about the future of public education, but probably the most fundamental is the funding. And I know that sounds overly simplistic, but I've always prided myself on being fairly pragmatic. And if there's not enough funding in there, we can dance around the edges and you can shuffle all the pieces on the board you want. But if there's not enough of them, there's not enough of them. And having watched the trajectory of the decrease of education funding as a percentage of GDP, not the ideal measure, but a pretty good one to see kind of a metric of how government and the population values it. It's going down, and it's gone down. And so I see where that has led us. And unfortunately for me, it's kind of it's at odds also with what we've tried to do, which is to recognize the actual needs of children. You look at inclusion, and that's what inclusion was. Inclusion was people saying, you know what, actually, we realize that some of these students that we essentially have been giving up on, they just need a little bit more help is all that they need. And so we're going to bring them in and we're going to do that. And that recognition happened, but I don't think people were prepared for or anticipated or were willing to put in what it costs to do that up front. Yeah. Because to be clear, it's a cost savings. Yeah. It is absolutely 100% a cost savings always. But that upfront investment has never really been properly made, and I think that's what you're seeing right now. So I worry that what's going to happen when that crux of not enough money to support those students properly meets with what that looks like in a system and people's value of the system. So
I think many teachers would agree with you. I think they completely support inclusion, but they just don't feel supported in the classroom to make it successful, and they feel it's broken in many ways, and they're dealing with situations that are almost impossible for them to deal with in some classrooms in this province, right?
I 100%. I hear about it every time I go to locals, and I think that's the problem because also I'll use a quick analogy that I think always works really well, but we'll see. If you have a car and you don't put oil in it when you're supposed to, you can drive that car a long, long time. But the curve of how it deteriorates is exponential. When you start to hear something, you are already well on the way. And by the time you think, oh, there's a serious problem, you're done. Yeah. And I worry that that's what's been happening with education. Not to be hyperbolic or catastrophic, but that's what's happened is the people in it, us, teachers, EAs, principals even, they've seen what's coming. They know what's coming. They know how bad it is under the hood, the underfunding, the lack of resources, what it's doing to the people in the system. Yeah. The students who aren't getting the support they need and that we all want to give them but can't. But the public is only seeing a mild clatter, if you will.
Yeah. And the double-edged sword is that teachers make it work.
Yeah.
Right?
We prop it up.
They take that duct tape and they wrap it up and they make it work. They keep making it work because they love those kids and they want it to be successful. But that's kind of, they're not putting, the government or whoever you want to go back to is not putting the oil in the car. Right?
Yeah, and you can't, and you can only keep it running for so long. And you're 100% right. I mean, we're losing more teachers earlier in their career and having teachers at the end of their career stay longer. Is what is covering up right now how bad it is. And that is not a sustainable model for anyone, you know. And so it's, that's probably what keeps me up at night is, and knowing that that the outcome of that, like to be clear, it worries me for our members who, like you say, I watch them burn out. I hear stories, I watch teachers cry, an unfortunately high amount of times in this work. Alongside that, and just as important, is that what it means is that there's students who are not getting what they were promised and deserve from a system, right? And the connection point of those two is regret for me. That's always the thing I've tried to convey to politicians and anyone who listen is that, like, it's hard to describe what it's like to live knowing that you could have helped the child if you just had the time or the resources, but you couldn't. Yeah, that is a,
it's devastating.
It's a tough feeling to live with, right?
Yeah.
So what will you miss most as the BCTF president?
You know, that's actually a pretty easy one. One of the real concrete privileges is I get the opportunity to go around the province and see teachers in every part of this province, even outside the province. But like I go to locals, I talk to people. I was in Nanaimo last night, talking to members out there, hearing their questions. You know, that's unquestionably the thing I'm going to miss the most is the chance to go out, hear members' stories, meet them where they live, where they're at, and understand their stories better. So yeah, easy answer.
And what will you not miss?
What will I not miss?
That you can say.
I would say I'll not miss the time commitment, but the place I'm going is going to be the same. I think what I won't miss is, you know, it is a political job. I'm always upfront with members about that. I know some of us don't like to identify as though I'm not a politician, and that's fair enough for each individual as they view it. But I get elected by people to a position and represent them. Yeah. It's pretty unarguably a politician to me. And that has a side you have to take on as well. You have to do some of that. You have to campaign. You have to get elected. You have to do some of the political stuff, which is not really the part of the job we all like. So I won't miss that. You know, I've enjoyed the piece of having the privilege of representing and meeting members and all that. But I won't miss the politics of having to run every year and all of that.
So could you share with us your next chapter?
Yeah, sure. My next chapter is a move to Ottawa, where the BCTF is part of the Canadian Teachers Federation, the CTF FCE, the Fédération Canadienne des Enseignants et Enseignantes. And I was fortunate enough to be elected president of that. So starting in July, I'll be president of that for 2 years. Thank you very much. And so off to Ottawa. Similar work, but not identical. So kind of looking forward to it, yeah.
Well, we thank you for that, and we thank you for your service as president of the BCTS, and we really appreciate you coming on after the bell. Greatly appreciate it.
It was an absolute pleasure to talk to both of you.
It was great meeting you, and congratulations and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Let's share a cocktail sometime.
Yes. Absolutely. I would love that. Make your way out to Ottawa,
okay.
And we're in. Okay. We're in. All right.
This podcast is organic, taking shape with each episode. Building resiliency for teachers everywhere.
That sounds great.
And our website is stuntbrothers.ca.
That's stuntbrothers.ca.
We will chat again.
After the bell.